I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to the 101st episode of Playing from the Tips, the podcast from Golf Australia magazine that covers all corners of the professional golfing globe and attempts to inform, enlighten, and on very rare occasions, entertain. Jimmy Emanuel here in the host chair again as we prepare for a big week of national opens and more, as well as a potential network clog in the SoFi Centre with so much TGL action. Joining me in all of that is a man who, there's no other way of putting it, let Meg McLaren down last week by failing to pay her a visit at Castle Hill, despite being at St Leonard's. She missed the cut. Rod Morri, do you accept full responsibility?
I do, and I do feel terrible about it. It just wasn't possible, unfortunately. It's just a shame I couldn't get out there. I did everything I could to try and get out there, but I couldn't, sadly, because Meg is one of the good people and thoughtful people in world golf. I would have loved to have gone out there and let her buy me a coffee, although given she missed the cut, I might have had to buy her one. But yes, it was disappointing. How was it? Oh, we'll come to that later. Sorry, mate.
I'm
not buying
shortly. I'm not buying those excuses, Jimmy. But
they're not excuses. It's flat out. I let the girl down. Yeah. I apologise. There's no more I can do.
Okay, right. As long as you.
There you go. Well, unlike you, Rod, Adrian Logue did make it to Castle Hill, and in perhaps the news of the week, forget Nick Vogt, forget Jake McLeod, forget Great Golf Course. Logue chipped the ball in the air more than once, and actually provided and contributed to a Pro-Am team. So Logue, you can have 15 seconds to talk about it.
The floor is yours.
Well, at least for 9 holes. I mean, we were assisted by a best ball off the tee, but I beat the pro for the first 9. Ben Eccles.
Yeah.
He's,
I was going to say, do you want to name and
Why would you
Ben
do
Eccles?
that to him?
He went on.
He's one of the nicest blokes in golf.
He's an incredibly nice guy.
Good player,
and
actually.
Really good player. Went on to get a top 10, I think, didn't Jimmy? He was.
Yeah, he played pretty well, yeah.
Well, yeah, he turned it around from the Pro-Am.
Happened, Jimmy, at Wednesday night.
Imagine. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, enough about me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought there was going to be more, but anyway.
Of all the things I'm jealous
week,
about of you, Logue, you being able to chip the ball in the air is at the top of the list.
Look,
yeah.
It's not your dashing good looks or your incredible job and your amazing career. It's the fact you can actually get the ball airborne.
There was one hole where we had to all come, like we picked a ball where there was a chip shot or like a full swing. I was like going to advocate for the full swing, but everyone just moved up to pick the ball where I had to hit a chip shot. And it was over a little creek to a fairly tight pin and a shallow green. And of all of us, including the pro, I was the only one who got up and down.
Amazing. Sometimes, Jimmy, you can run around your forehand and still win.
Exactly.
That's the lesson there.
Everyone knows the 12th at Castle Hill is all about luck rather than skill. All right. Otherwise, last week, other highlights, there was plenty. I think Nick Vogt, new attitude, new way of going about it, and probably the most relaxed and comfortable winner for at least 70 holes of a golf tournament I've ever seen.
Yes, terrific win. Angel Yin, I thought was a terrific win. One of the highlights of the week. She's a great personality, Angel. It's a shame she hasn't won more, that more people don't sort of know her. She didn't play the Women's New South Wales Open at Dublin, which is on her when I was there, but she did play the Vic Open a few years back. One of her first events, I think, on the LET at the time, or maybe it might have been an LPGA. But anyway, she was carrying a Founders Club 2-iron and using it.
Oh, wow.
So immediately I went and got Clates and said, you've got to come and meet this girl. I'd never encountered her before.
Such an exciting player and a great personality, and you just really want to see her in contention every week. But that's not the sort of career she's going to have. She's going to, I don't think so, she's going to punctuate her career with wins every now and then. But
what did she make? 30 birdies for the week or something?
Yeah, she's a really exciting player.
She's a really exciting player.
When she's on, it's fantastic.
But Nick Vogt was terrific, I thought, so as well, Jimmy. That was a great finish to that.
Nick Vogt, I think, I was obviously there and very close to it. I think it was very impressive. And Jake McLeod, again, coming so close. Jake McLeod must feel like he's done something wrong to someone with how close he's coming to win.
I don't know, Jimmy. I think there was a difference.
Either it's that or Rod keeps picking him.
And I will again this week, just a heads up.
And he did last week, yeah.
I'll tell you the reason, though, I think this week was different. A couple of weeks ago, when he was close but didn't get it done, he didn't play well. In fact, he played quite poorly. by his standards. Sunday, he played fantastic golf. He could not have done any more. He was just beaten fair and square by a player who played better, and that's a completely different way to finish second. And that, he will take that into next week. Playing well on Sunday is kind of a special Tour Pros gift. I think you need to develop it.
Which he did, though.
Absolutely.
He did what he needed to do to put the pressure on Nick Vogt.
Particularly at the close. So
that's what gave him a chance.
That's why I think Jake's close, really close. So.
Yeah. And I'm going to just put a marker down that I'm going to pick him at the New Zealand Open. So, Rod, you're going to have to come up with someone else. Right. But there was also another pretty exciting thing. I mean, Brian Campbell wins the PGA Tour event in Mexico with some of the most ridiculous bounces of all time. But our Aldrich Potgieter, Australia's own Aldrich Potgieter, because he lived in Western Australia for a while, so we're claiming him despite the fact he plays for South Africa. That is one of the more impressive golf games I've seen come out in a young guy onto a main tour, I think.
The hitting, definitely, Jimmy, but goodness me, his chipping looks problematic. He let him down a few weeks ago. He was in contention a few weeks ago and hit that horrible just chop in the rough and left it in the rough, and he hit about 3 or 4 yesterday. Sunday, sorry. I think, his short game looks suspect for that level.
I feel seen.
Well, he's probably also jealous of you for being able to get the ball in there. He left a couple at his feet, or one at his feet yesterday, and then he chipped plenty of them, 20, 30 feet past. And at that level, you're right, that tells you how good his long game is, Jimmy. It's extraordinary the talent he's got, but he's going to need to develop that short game to get there. But I agree with you. Exciting player, though. He smashes it and doesn't even look like he's moving.
To be able to get that close to a win and chipping it that badly is
absolutely
always a sign of how good a player is, and they've just got to work something out. So
can you learn to
He's
chip?
young enough to work something.
Can you learn to chip?
You can learn to chip.
Yeah.
You can learn to chip. Yeah, and I don't think it's...
Not at our age.
I don't think it's...
But
no,
at
not,
20, when you're as good as he is. And have a bit of time on your hands to practice.
It's not an older person who's got the scars of so many bad shots. It's a technical issue, I'd say. So
well, Nicholas
I think
wasn't a great chipper.
Aldrich.
Nicholas was famously other players. Nobody wanted his wedge game.
He sort of had a technique that got by.
Yes, that's right, and which is all Potgieter probably needs to do to be the big. Yeah, but that's the only weakness you can see in his game.
Finally, on last week, we did manage 1 win and 3 top 10s. Takes us to 11 wins for the year and 21 top 10s. And don't we need to take advantage of the TGL this week to boost those numbers before that ends? But those numbers are unrivaled by any golf podcast with one person doing WebEx Players Series Sydney into the WPGA Championship, as you well know, Rod.
Oh, look, there's no question about that, Jimmy. That's 101 of those you've come up with so far. How long do you reckon you can actually go? It's starting to get to the point now where it's like, what's Jimmy going to do next?
Yeah, it's getting hard. It's getting hard. I got to
start to think about it on
I'm busy at
Mondays
the
now.
moment.
Yeah,
I'm busy at the moment, so it's getting even harder because putting the time aside for that's quite a lot of time.
You could make the case that it's getting harder to match the more podcasts we have. After one podcast, there were probably a lot of podcasts that could match our numbers after one podcast. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
The niche. We created the niche and then filled it.
I mentioned the TGL. We will also be covering off on the Challenger PGA Tour of Australasia, which is co-sanctioning with the Asian Tour this week, the LPGA, PGA Tour and DP World Tour. But let's start close to home. And the 104th New Zealand Open presented by Sky Sports. I mentioned it's the Australasian Tour and Asian Tour together. It's not tri-sanctioned. I don't think anything's tri-sanctioned anymore, but it's kind of in partnership with the Japan Golf Tour. So we get a few Japanese tour players as well, which is quite a nice little addition. It's at Millbrook Resort, and it's across both the Coronet and Remarkables courses for the first 2 days because it is a Pro-Am format, this one. So you get your local people like Michael Hill and all those people from New Zealand, and then you get a few celebrities getting involved. The field is very, very good. So from the Australasian Tour side, you've got a couple of Order of Merit winners in David Micheluzzi, Brad Kennedy, Jake McLeod, who we've already mentioned. Australian PGA champion Elvis Smiley comes back to try and sew up the Order of Merit title, which would get him a start at the Open and a start at the US Open, while Brendan Jones is back. He won here a couple of years ago. Kiwi presence strong. Nick Vogt, last week's winner, Vic Open champion Josh Geary, and a whole lot of the winners from this season and last on the Australasian Tour. A lot of the contenders that pop up everywhere, Jack Carter, Andrew Campbell, Anthony Quayle, those sort of players. And then you get a lot of invites as well. So Stephen Alka is one of those that will raise plenty of heads. Luke Kwon, who's Nick Vogt's YouTube partner. And then Yo Ishikawa from the Japan side. It's just good field all round. John Catlin from the Asian Tour, Barry Henson, who I know will get your attention load, Jazz Jan Watnanond, Ben Campbell. Kind of endless list in terms of player quality. The golf courses are very good as well. It's very typical resort golf. It's down in Queenstown. It's one of the greatest weeks on tour of the year. Everyone wants to be there because it's a great atmosphere when you do these big pro-ams. There's lots of post-play parties and all that sort of stuff, and plenty of good food and drink, and Queenstown is a renowned town for that. They play the Remarkables course as the main course over the weekend. So who do we think is going to win? Rod?
We'll go to Logue first because you stole Jake McLeod from me, so I'm back in the list looking for somebody else.
Very good. Logue?
I think the winner this week is already whoever did the website for the New Zealand Open. It's one of the best websites in world golf, I've got to say.
That's a huge
It is a magnificent website.
Outside of the Masters, maybe the best website in world golf. It's way better than it really probably needs to be even. It's really good. But I've perused that website.
Perused. Nice.
Okay.
I like that.
Perused.
Nice,
Perused.
okay.
Maybe that's
Perused, yes.
I got that right now. And settled on David Micheluzzi as my pick.
Nice.
As you would. I'm going to cheer for the story, Jimmy, and this guy is always going to be a story. Michael Hendry, who's been playing remarkably well since coming back from leukemia. I think he's a former winner here, but he'll like the tournament, he'll like the course, and it would be fabulous to see him get the job done. So go Michael Hendry.
Can I tell you that Kiwis don't win the New Zealand Open?
You can tell me that.
They just do not win the New Zealand Open.
Canadians never won the
one of those
Canadian Open until Nick Taylor as well. So there you go.
Correct. Yeah, that's fine. That's well and good, Logue.
Yeah.
But Kiwis just do not win this golf tournament.
Yeah.
It is remarkable how much of a struggle, considering some of the players they've had of late. It's also, just as a side note, got one of the great website, but great honour rolls with Peter Thompson and Kel Nagel winning this thing. I think it's a combined 16 times between them.
Nine for Thompson, I think.
9 for Thompson and 7 for Kel, so remarkable stuff. But as mentioned at the top of the show, I am going to go with Jake McLeod, who I think last week, you're right, Rod, he looked determined. Sunday, Jake's a very fun-loving, great guy. Sunday morning, he showed up. He was in the zone, and he was going to get it done if it took everything out of him, and he played as good as he could. A couple of putts hung on the edge, and Nick Vogt was just too good in the end, but I think Jake's going to be there. But if you want to cheer for the story, Rod, I'm not sure if you've read it, and if you haven't, you should go and do it. Adam Pengilly wrote a story about Ryan Peake last week.
I saw the headline.
Sat down for an extended period last week at Castle Hill, and Pengers wrote, it is fascinating. The people might know the Ryan Peake story a little bit, and I won't go into the full depth of it, but he spent a bit of time in jail in his younger life after being an absolute superstar young amateur, and Richie Smith helped him get back to golf. And Ryan was working through the visa process to get to New Zealand, which was delayed because there's extra steps, and it took longer than it should have. But he's managed to get himself over there. He's playing the next 2 weeks and is determined to play well and has been a regular contender. So I'm mentioning Ryan Peake, but I'm also just encouraging anyone, go and read Adam Pengilly's story through the News Limited network, because it is magnificent and it is fascinating.
Hendry Peake playoff. That's what we want, Jimmy. That's the story.
That's the story.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Done. Moving along, and we will go to the LPGA Tour and to you, Rod, for the HSBC Women's World Championship.
It's bold, isn't it, Jimmy? the Women's World Championship. They just declared it. And look,
Yeah, I like that.
so do I. Absolutely. And this has been a fantastic tournament. It's only been on the calendar since 2008. It's always one of the highlights of the year. Everybody, I think, will remember at least a few of the finishes that we've had here. Paula Creamer holding that long bomb at the other golf course they used to play at Sentosa, and Hannah Green winning last year with a terrific putt on the final green to get it done by one. Does producers think, look, it's got it skewed in their favour. It's a limited field event with no cut. 9 of the world's top 10 this week, and that's pretty standard for this tournament. So you're going to get a terrific honour roll. But look, HSBC have invested a lot of money in golf in Asia over the years, including women's golf, and it's to their credit. So good on them for doing that. This course is the Tanjong course at Sentosa. Have you been to Sentosa, Jimmy? I haven't, but there's 2 courses there. There's
I haven't, no. A very good friend of mine's the fitter for Titleist out of Sentosa, but I've never actually been there myself.
It's kind of like the capital of Asian golf in some ways, isn't it? It's one of the places. So look, it's a tournament venue designed for tournament golfing always, except for the 51 weeks a year when it's a resort course. So,
Did you say you're going there next week, Jimmy?
No, Gold Coast next week.
Didn't you say you were going there next week?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Not. I'll be after the tournament. But.
So you hear yourself in Jimmy's voice, do you?
No.
So when you told me you might be in Singapore next week, what you heard was Jimmy saying he was going to be in Singapore next week?
I'm obviously confused. I need more of this coffee.
Yeah, maybe some more of that coffee. It's a mid-teens under par tends to win this tournament, so it's a good sort of test between player and course. It's quite stereotypical of golf in that part of the world. They set it up quite narrow for this tournament. The rough isn't super thick, but it's thick enough. Driving iron play are going to be critical this week. The greens are big, so you've got to hit it into the right spots. To hit it in the right spots, you need to be hitting from the fairway. So drive it well, good iron player. That's the combination that's going to get it done. Here's an interesting little tidbit. I'm going to talk about the European Tour later, or DP World Tour later. The official yardage at the South African Open in Durban this week for the men, 6,198 metres. The official yardage for this course, 6,195. So the LPGA and the European Tour are playing essentially the same yardage this week.
Not at elevation either.
No, and look, there's a lot of flexibility.
No Sahali.
Zero Sahalis.
No Sahali, that's right, 0 Sahalis. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. You know, the course can change by a couple of hundred yards or whatever. But that's their starting point is only 3 metres apart total for the 18 holes. So I don't know why, but I feel like that'll be interesting to watch. Hannah Green defending. She won by a shot, as I said, from Celine Boutier last year with a terrific final putt on the last green. She took last week off, as did a lot of players. The Honda LPGA Thailand, unfortunately, seems to be the Asian Tour event or the Asian swing event that a lot of the top players seem to skip. Hannah was one of those, but she was tied 4th at the Founders Cup, so she'll definitely be one to watch this week on a course that she likes. Won't be easy. 9 of the top 10. Nelly Corder, she's skipping the entire Asian swing. As a scheduling thing, she decided she didn't want to. She wanted to have a lighter schedule, so she just eliminated the Asian swing from her schedule, and she'll pick up in March when they get back to the States. 9 of the top 10 in the world apart from that, obviously, so we all know who those names are. Danielle Kang received an invite this week. She had a terrible year last year. I went and had a look. I didn't realise. She really played poorly in 2024. So who knows, that might be a good start for her back. Look, if you put all that in the blender, my tip would have been Lydia Ko. I thought about Lydia Ko, but it's her first start for the year. So I'm going to go stick with Pat from last week, Patty Tavatanakit, who impressed, I thought, on Sunday and is a player who looks to be improving each week at this early stage. Was 4th, I think, here last year. So I reckon she'll get the job done this week.
Okay.
Very good. Low.
Well, my thought about pick was Hannah Green to defend.
Yeah.
I was over in Perth last week and she was out at Lake Karrinyup practicing every day.
Did she do a thing Mount Lawley with Minjee Lee, I think?
Yeah, she
Thompson
did.
posted
on
some photos.
Friday, she did something at Mount Lawley with Minjee.
Remarkable.
Mount Lawley's reopened and Nick O'Hearn went and did something with Jordan Doole and Catherine Norris, and then a couple of days later it was Hannah Green, Minjee Lee, Hayden Barron, Curtis Luck, Connor Fuchs, and one other I can't remember, maybe Kirsten Rudgley, all just out there having a hit. Like, that's a pretty good group, I reckon. Combined on the par might have been handy.
Yeah. How amazing is Perth? I mean, just Western Australian golf. Like going back to Craig Parry, Wayne Smith, Roger Mackay, like just
100%.
Graham Marsh. Like, it's just amazing source of golfers for us. Anyway, that was my thought about pick. I think she'll do all right, but I'm 100% team Ryo Takeda, the Japanese superstar, winner of the Japan Open, the Toto Japan Open. And people just don't know this yet, but she is a superstar. And she's only had a few starts on the PGA Tour. On the LPGA Tour. But and once she gets her confidence and she realises that she'll be like, oh, actually, I can beat everybody now.
I don't need to step up.
People don't know what's coming. She's amazing.
The Japan Women's Tour has got so many good. I don't know if anyone who follows that Desert Duffer on. He's a sort of a big live supporter, but quite anti PGA Tour and whatnot. But he's a very close follower, clearly, of the Japan LPGA, and he just reels off the players that you're going to see sort of week after week. He got last week.
EY came second, and she's another one.
And they don't get a start this week.
Really good competitor.
There's no top 10 finish gets you a start next week in these Asians, so we don't get to see her this week. So it's maybe something for the LPGA to think about. But the JLPGA seems like the untapped market. Yep. Korean players all seem to go to America, but we just don't see as much of the Japan players. Good tip, though. I like it.
Yeah, very good. I'm going to go with Gino Tittigan. She was very good last week. Now that I think, Logie might have been the one who tipped her last week, her saddlebags are lightened with you out of there, so I'm all in. Moving along, and Logue, we're going to go to you this time for the Cognizant Classic in capital letters here, the Palm Beaches.
Yeah, or the CC in the PB, as I like to call it. Formerly known as the Honda Classic. It's the start of the Florida swing, and there's a little bit at stake this week with some places in the next signature event, the Arnold Palmer, still on offer. So that's what some people in the field have to play for. But look, it's a bit of a lackluster field. This is one of those filler PGA Tour events now, and it's very hard to be excited about these things, I've got to say. But anyway, here we are again. And we're at a very exciting course. You'll love this, Rod, the PGA National Resort champion course with the Bear Trap, the iconic Bear Trap. Water in play on 15 of the 18 holes. I really cannot get excited about this.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Anyway, we've got Austin Eckroat as the winner last.
It's a short straw to draw to be the preview of this.
of the CC and the PB.
We'll get him to do the Valspar as well, then he'll have the snake pit to talk about and he'll have the collection.
Look, I mean, there was an interesting winner last year, Austin Eckroat. He's back to defend. The headliner of the field is Shane Lowry. Then we get into Sungjae Im, Sepp Straka, who's having a good year. Russell Henley, Daniel Berger, sort of still on the comeback trail, I guess you could say. I'm going to skip over this. Denny McCarthy, who I really like. I think he's just an interesting player to watch, and just when he's standing over the ball on the green, there's something special. You can tell. You don't even have to see him hit a putt. You just know. Watching him work around the ball, you know that guy's a good putter. And Jordan Spieth's playing again. I'm a bit concerned he's playing a little bit too much coming back from his wrist injury.
Not sure about that tone there. Well, Jordan Spieth's playing again.
Well, I'm concerned for him. I think he's playing too much. I guess he wants to find something before the Masters and have a good finish to sort of build his confidence going into the year.
He also doesn't get guaranteed into the signature events. So
he's now got two kids, so the bills are only getting bigger.
Yeah, it's right.
He needs to go. He needs to get. In fact, it's probably his wife said, "Get to work, son." All That's right. It. You've had enough time.
Daycare and nappies aren't cheap.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. The Australians in the field, Min Woo Lee. Very exciting to see Min Woo play well again. Hopefully this week. He went pretty well in this tournament last year. And Carl Phillips playing again, the other Australian.
Did he get a sponsor's invite when another sponsor's invite pulled out or something?
I don't know.
I think he did, because I think he also was announced, was he not, during the week, Jimmy, as the first ambassador for Sunday Red, Tiger's clothing.
He sure is. Oh. He is Tiger's first stablemate in his clothing brand.
Good on him. That's a big vote of confidence. My pick, however, there's one name I've left out of that list of stars that I just reeled off there, is Kashmir Keith Mitchell. Is nice. Just the standout for me in this field. So,
and a tip?
That was it.
Is Kashmir Keith your tip? There you go. Okay.
Write it down, Jimmy. Put it in the book. And thought about, who'd you think about?
Putting it in?
No think-abouts.
Oh, no think-abouts. Okay.
Okay. Gave this as little thought as I could.
Rod?
Ben Arn for me. It was the year of Ben Arn last year, I said. Didn't quite happen, but it's going to be the year of Ben Arn. He's had his
You keep trying to make Ben Arn a thing.
Well, and now I've got an ally. Luke Kerr-Dineen broke down his swing. And that's always a good sign for a player. On Twitter, I saw the other day. So if LKD is doing your swing, you're going to be a contender this year. So, and I actually think he has played well. It does suit him, this sort of course.
if LKD looks at your golf swing, it's known that the CC and the PB is where you're going to play well, obviously. You mentioned Shane Lowry as the tournament headliner. I think he's going to play very well this week. He's played well here before. He's also been the one to look to enjoy the TGL the most. So I don't know what that means, but it means that I'm going to tip him. So there you go.
Having fun. Let him go.
We're going to move along to the DP World Tour and back to you, Rod, for the Investec South African Open Championship.
Indeed, our first sponsor watch for the day. Investec actually do invest proper money into golf. In fact, it's a bank, but they invest a lot of money in all sports over there. But they do not. They sponsor the women's and men's South African Opens, but they also have other programs that they sponsor as well for locals and promoting juniors, and they sponsor a few players. Actually, a positive sort of a thing. So good on Investec for doing that. You're going to hear it ad nauseum this week. It's the sort of oldest national open outside any of the majors, the US Open and the Open Championship for the other ones. 1903 for South Africa, 1904 for us and for Canada. So there's some of the old. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a swing of national opens, these historic tournaments? We've talked about it before, lots of people have, but that would be good. It's a seaside adjacent course, but it's got a highway between the course and sort of the sea, and you can't really see the sea from most of the places. Think maybe St Michael's here in Sydney, where you got a lot of that vegetation that hides the views of the water from the fairways, but you get up on the tees a bit elevated and you can sort of get the more expansive views. This course is a bit like that. Doesn't really play like a links, but it has been completely redone. They got flooded in 2022. They were underwater for 6 weeks. The whole course was basically trashed. They've rebuilt all 18 greens. They didn't reopen the course until March last year. Rebuilt all 18 greens. Did I say this was Durban Country Club, by the way? Durban Country Club.
Oh, Durban.
The course we're talking about, yes.
Okay.
Which has always been one of the more revered courses in South Africa because of its history and where it is. Totally different look. They've created a burn through the course to manage what were ongoing drainage and flooding issues at the course, redid all 18 greens, moved a bunch of greens and changed a bunch of holes. So all of that means that it's hosted the tournament 17 times before, but no one's going to recognise the course they see this week. It's essentially
tune in.
golf
I'm
course.
very keen to have a look at that.
I am too, and I think that the locals and the members will be. It actually looks like a clever redesign that achieves something pragmatic, but also improves the course and the way it plays. It does look pretty interesting. From the limited pictures and videos I can find, I really do quite like the look of it. So it will be interesting to see that this year. So the tournament itself, it's co-sanctioned between the Sunshine and DP World Tours. We know one thing for certain, the South African contingent will be strong. They always are at home, and there's no reason why they won't be again this week. The last 5 winners straight have been South African. It's been sort of 6 years since we saw a winner.
Not like New Zealanders at the New Zealand
Not like
Open.
New Zealanders at
Unlike New Zealand, yeah.
Well, there'll be no Australians winning the South African Open this year either because there's none in the field. And in fact, Kazuma Kabori must have made a very difficult decision because he's in the field this week in Durban, not playing the New Zealand Open, which I'm sure.
Like Ryan Fox playing at the CC.
Well,
and the
that's
PB.
exactly right. In Kazuma's case, I suspect that part of his decision would have been to do with the length of this course, as mentioned before. This is short for a professional tournament. That plays into Kazuma's hands. I mean, we know how good he was here a couple of years ago, but it was always going to be the case that he probably lacked somewhere between 10 and 25 yards to really get up into that echelon of players who are at the top end of the game. Got all the skills. So this course might well suit him, and who knows, best of luck this week. As I said, I thought about Charles Schwartzel, only because he's never won this tournament, which I found staggering. You just assumed that he would have picked up a South African Open on his way through. Never. He's finished runner-up. It's a bit of a US Open, Phil Mickelson sort of thing. And for that reason, I decided to get off Charles Schwartzel. And instead, I'm going to go with the Englishman Dan Bradbury, who had a very good swing through the desert swing, through Qatar and Dubai and those places. Really tidy player, and looks like the sort of game that'll go well on a course like this.
Nice. So you're going to buck the trend of South Africans. Very interesting.
I think the streak stops at 5.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Big call.
Low.
I'm also going with an Englishman, John Parry, who's cracked the world top 100. I think he's on the verge of getting the journeyman label. John Parry's been around for a fair while, but a couple of wins on the tour. But back into the world top 100, I think, and coming off a second place last week in Kenya. So, I like John Parry. I think he's due to add to his tally of wins.
Go, John.
Make it 3.
I think South African domination continues, and Dean Burmester's the one. He looks a better player since he's gone to live. He looks like he's improved, and he was already a very frequent winner. So I think he keeps it going here.
One of the live players that stayed hungry.
Yeah, that's right. Correct. absolutely.
He might be the only one you can
moving
think of
along
that you've
to
improved. Oh, Neiman, I suppose.
Neiman.
He's lifted his game too. But yeah.
Herbert.
Yeah.
Herbert as
He's
well.
in New Zealand this week.
There's a
Interesting
few.
to see how he goes. Lucas.
He is indeed. That's a miss of not mentioning him. He'll be a factor there. We go to the SoFi Centre and we go there with LA and New York kicking things off very shortly. So we haven't seen the result. We're not juicing our numbers that bad. We're juicing them definitely by TGL, but we're not juicing that badly. LA New York is the first match of a triple header. LA lineup of Tony Finau, Colin Morikawa, Sahith Theegala against New York, Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick and Ricky Fowler. New York, who absolutely dominated Tiger's Jupiter Links last week and made us all look silly. Who do we think gets the win here? Rod?
Well, looking at the live scoreboard as the event unfolds, I think. Is that what we're doing here? I think we might have just found it here. I don't know, Jimmy. I'll be honest. I have no idea really who's going to win, but I'm going to say New York because, as you said, they towed up Tigers' team the other week, so go for it.
Logue?
Yeah, well, I don't think you need to ask, Jimmy. I'm going with LA.
Beloved LA, I think.
It's my team.
Your beloved LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I'm going with New York because they're not your team. We keep going because there's more, as I said, there's another match tonight in Florida and then another one tomorrow. So my Boston Common take on Atlanta. Rod, your team. Yep. Boston being Keegan Bradley, Hideki Matsuyama, Rory McIlroy. They take on Justin Thomas, Billy Horschel, Patrick Cantlay. So I'm guessing I'm going to go with Boston. Rod's going to go with Atlanta. And Logue, you're going to go with?
I'll go with Boston. They've been disappointing though, Jimmy.
They really have.
Got to say.
They have. They have. For the team that probably has the most stacked lineup, they've been very disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the final match of the triple header is the Bay Golf Club up against Tiger's Jupiter Links, but Tigerless Jupiter Links, which is Tom Kim, Kevin Kisner, Max Homer. They take on Minwoo Lee, Shane Lowry, Wyndham Clark. So two of the Bay players who are playing the CC and the PB after playing Tuesday night in the SoFi Centre. Who do we think gets the win there? Logue, we'll start with you this time.
I'll go with Jupe again. We'll see. Yep. No Tiger. Is he going to be there in the stands in the SoFi Centre cheering them on?
Well, I'd assume so. He lives not far away, so you'd hope that the team captain would be there, given
or in the dugout. Do they have a dugout?
Oh, a dugout.
Well, they stand over to the side. They should have a dugout. That'd be good.
What do you? Anyway, that's
who'd you go for?
Jupe.
Okay, I'm going for the Bay because they look like they're the dominant team based on this. What are they going 3-0? Is that right? I think they were 3-0. So they look like they're pretty good. So another win there, Jimmy. Chalk that up.
It's the Bays to lose at this stage.
Nicely
I understand
done.
how playoffs or anything like that happen, so I'm going with Bay as well. And there is one more event this week that we're just going to make mention of, and I'm going to get you guys to tip without notice because it's kind of the idea. The Athena is back this weekend, which is the WPGA showpiece of up-and-coming talent. So if you win it, you can't come. It puts a little money in your pocket and off you go to play tours overseas is the hope. It's a skills challenge on day one. It's match play on day two. The field this year I will go through, so listen carefully so you can pick a winner out of it. Jess Whitting, Abby Teasdale, Kono Matsumoto, Claire Shin, Belinda G, Steph Bunky, Steph Vogel, Danny Vasquez, Sarah Yamaki Branch, Amy Chu, Madison Kelly, and Amelia Mehmet Grom. Logue, what name did you actually hear that stands out and is going to win this week?
I didn't need to hear anything after Steph Bunky. Such a talent. And I think this sort of skills test is really the sort of place where she can just dominate. Well, she might have won this in some previous year, or she's done well in these in previous years, hasn't she?
She has played okay in this, yeah, for sure. I think the first one she might have played well and was okay last year as well. So, Rod, a tip from you?
I'll be honest and say many of those names are unfamiliar to me, so I don't know their form. But Abby Teasdale is one that I do know, and she is a really good young player. So go Abby in the Athena.
Very good. I am going to go for Amy Chu. I would have gone for Jess Whitting, but Jess had to withdraw last week with a back injury, so that doesn't bode well necessarily for Jess's chances. And that's all happening at Peninsula Kingswood. Fantastic.
Oh, nice, because it's been on the Gold Coast
particularly
previously, hasn't it? Gold Coast?
It was on the Gold Coast. It was at Sandy Golf Links, and then it was at PK last year. And PK, particularly for the skills challenge, Peninsula Kingswood has some of the best chipping and pitching areas in the world. So to be able to do that stuff down there is fantastic.
I just got to say, I'm glad they're sticking with this, the WPGA. It's a really interesting idea. It'll probably take some time to get right for the formula. This is the fourth year, I think, as you said, and it's been better each year. But this is what we keep talking about, what's golf's T20 cricket. This sort of thing can be really interesting, those skills challenges, because every golfer who watches that can say, well, from here, what would I do? How would I try and play this shot? Even without the skill set that these players have. And it's one for the true believers, but if they get it right, it could be a really good fun annual event every year to just watch these players, because they give them some pretty funky shots, don't they? And they make them hit certain clubs sometimes, and it's like you've got to hit 3-wood here whether you want to or not. It's all that sort of stuff. And I like that. I think that's got potential.
Are you calling it?
I'd like to... No, I'm not. I'm not down there. I'll be at the WPGA Championship the week following. I would have loved to have done the Athena. That would be a lot of fun. I'd like to see someone as like a regular person doing the challenge first.
Oh, win the chance.
Mm-hmm.
The chance. Logue, maybe.
The chip over the bunker to a tight pin. Imagine watching Logue do that on televiation. That'd be I'd pay for that.
A nitby.
A nitby, yes. Not in the bunker, yeah. Well, that's assuming you don't blade it, Logue, in which case it could be in the water hazard over the back.
Or just buried in the face.
Buried in the face.
Or through a camera lens, I'd imagine Logue would be half a chance of doing that.
I've got to say this again. I'll never forget this, Jimmy, at the Lakes a couple of years ago at the Australian Open. Logue and I are standing on the 9th hole, and there's like a little lion's mouth bunker in the front of the par 3 green, and one of the players had come up short. He's walked up and done his numbers, and he sort of chipped it over to sort of 8 feet. And Logue looks at me and he goes, he didn't even notice that bunker.
No, I said
it's all that we could see.
I said he didn't even think about sculling that over the back.
That's right, yeah. Never gave it a thought. And he was quite earnest, and I was in complete agreement. Then I realised what we were saying. We are useless. How bad is it?
What a perfect note for us to finish episode 101 of Playing from the Tips. You can follow along with all the action we've spoken about today and much, much more on the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week on Playing from the Tips.